Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Alana.
And I'm Tamara.
And welcome to Podcast
Primas.
We do that again.
What if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice? What would it be? Now, for the sake of this exercise, imagine that this piece of advice wouldn't change the trajectory of your life, any of the experiences you had, or any of the lessons you've learned in order to become the person you are today. What would you narrow it down to and why? This is the question that Tamara and I each answer and discuss, after much thought and consideration, on this week's episode of Podcast Primas. And for the first time, we asked some of our closest friends and family to share a recording with their answers to this question. Not only were we blown away with the amount of people that were willing to participate, but even more so with the incredibly thoughtful and authentic responses we received. Not one answer to this question was similar, making the listening experience that much richer and more interesting. A huge thank you to everyone who gave their time in order to be a part of this very special episode. We hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we did, and that it's as thought-provoking for you as it was for us.
Another episode. Here we go. Welcome, everyone.
Episode of Podcast Primas.
Podcast Primas.
Oh, very nice. I like that. That's good.
You know, we just flow. That's what we do.
We do.
So
Yes.
on that note, welcome all of our listeners, all of you. Yes. Welcome to another episode of Podcast Primas. I have called Tamara in very last minute because we had an idea. We both went, yes, let's do it. And I love it. And I love it for that.
We summoned the troops.
We did.
Troops being you and I.
Podcast team, unite.
Assemble.
But tonight I really wanted to touch on something that sparked my attention on Instagram. And I listened to someone's audio that moved me. And the way that I heard it was, this would be a great letter to my younger self. And then I started thinking about, wow, if I actually wrote a whole letter to my younger self, what would I write? You know, there'd be so much in it. And then I tried to narrow it down and go, if I could give myself one piece of advice based off of all of the experience, all of the lessons, you know, all the life that I've lived up until now, what would that one piece of advice be? Which is difficult to narrow down to one thing. And so that's the question that I want to explore and ask tonight. But before I actually send it your way and ask you for your answer on that, I kind of want to clarify that by no means am I suggesting that this piece of advice that you would tell your younger self would change the course of your life or would change the experiences or change who you are now. Because I am a firm believer that everything happens for a reason and that our story is meant to be our story. And I do not believe in regret, and I don't hold any regret in my life. So this isn't coming from a place of, man, I wish I didn't do that, or man, I wish I did do this, or wanting to change anything. It's really just kind of a fun exercise. And I think something really cool to give thought to, and something really cool to kind of connect with your younger self or your inner child in a more nurturing kind of way, more than it coming from a place of, I wish things were different, you know?
Totally.
So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. And so I'm going to ask you.
Go for it.
Okay. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, which one, what would it be?
So, like you said, picking one thing is so difficult because there's so many things that come to mind that are powerful and big lessons that we've learned. And I'm on the same boat as you, where I don't want to change anything. As painful as some parts of life may have been, I wouldn't change anything, because here I am and here we are and we are who we are. And I love me and I love you. And that's
the
way it is. But anyway, to answer the question, my piece of advice to my younger self would be, you do not have to hold on to or be responsible for other people's decisions or opinions of you. And I feel like a lot of my life, of my younger life, was holding on to either the expectation of others on me or the actions of others around me. And that really affected me a lot, and like put like anxiety and stress on another level on my body. And I used to shut down my emotion. I got really good at like, I don't want to feel anymore. So my body would manifest it in other ways. So I would constantly get like body pains and aches and ailments and different things because my body was like, we have to let this out somehow. So I would get all these body things. It's definitely something that weighed heavy on me in my youth, and predominantly with my family. Our family.
May I ask, what do you think helped you the most in learning how to let that go? I'm sure it was a process and it wasn't just one thing, but was there something that you ever had a moment like, oh, that clicks and that makes sense, and now I'm able to do this? Or has it just been a journey and like one that you're still working on?
Definitely a journey. I think we're always working on all the things, but I've definitely got to a place where detachment is a massive part of who I am, and not like you're coping. But like, it's definitely, I don't know that it's like a coping mechanism. Is that what you're asking? No, because it used to be a coping mechanism to shut down. And now, instead of holding on to that and just shutting down, I release it to who it belongs to. So it no longer belongs to me. You know, I'm very good at now being like, from the smallest thing of like someone in a grocery store who may have gotten irritated that I like cut them off to grab grapes, you know, like, to something my mom is telling me. It's just from the small things to the big things. I feel like I've gotten really, really good at going, that doesn't belong to me. The woman in the grocery store is having a bad day and that has nothing to do with me. And she's clearly upset about something else and not the grapes. Or my mom has things to work on within herself, and that is why she's projecting these things onto me. So I do not take that on because it doesn't belong to me. So that's definitely a journey I had to go through. And I went from taking everything on and feeling this massive responsibility for the people who are closest to me to completely just, it was actually quite volatile and aggressive. I went from one side of the spectrum to the other. And that's how I found my journey in kind of finding that middle ground and being in the middle of like, these are my healthy boundaries and this is where I want to live. Because when I went to the other side of the spectrum, I really hurt a lot of relationships that I had, because instead of saying, listen, this is hurting me and I'm not okay with it anymore, I just basically gave everyone a massive fuck you and said, I don't want to deal with anything. I don't want you in my life. I want to move away from you. I want to not be part of any of this anymore and have fun figuring it out. I became mean. I shut down. I just didn't want anything to do with anybody. And then as life went along, I learned that that wasn't the way, but that was how it had to happen, because if it didn't happen that way, then I wouldn't find where I am today. And I've had conversations and
Boop.
Bedtime reminder.
Boop. Little break for it. Boop.
My bedtime reminder came down. My bad. Yeah. So that just not taking on what doesn't belong to me, whether it's an opinion or an action or whatever it is. My younger self definitely like held on to that and was in a lot of pain because of it. So just telling her, if it doesn't belong to you, release it. And you're still worthy of all good things, even though you don't.
It's not your responsibility.
No.
It's not your job.
No. It wasn't. It wasn't my job. None of it was my job, but I took it on.
Yeah.
And that was my choice. You know, that was definitely my choice. And I take that responsibility also, because in making those choices and then finding accountability behind those choices, that's where the real power falls.
Yeah. I think once you're old enough to have the self-awareness and see that it is a choice, then then you have the opportunity to take that accountability. I think when we're young, dependent upon how we're raised and how emotions run in our family, it's more of like a conditioning than it is a choice when you're younger. You know, you kind of don't really necessarily get the choice when you're younger, but it is such a beautiful thing when that does happen.
Yeah.
And I love hearing.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, that's true. It's very true. I think we put a lot of pressure on our younger selves, and even looking back on things like,
we didn't know any better.
Right.
You know, it's like, I really love that. It's a very well-known quote, but again, it's well known because it's a good one is, you know, once you know better, do better. But if you don't know better, like, how can you do better until you know? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But I love hearing those stories. I mean, I know you and I know each other's stories so well, but we don't get to like, nitpick it apart like this all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Which is really cool. But I always just get I get jazzed, which is kind of an anti-word to use. And I'm not sure why I chose it at this moment, because it's like jazzy, you know?
Really jazzes me up, man.
I don't know that I've actually ever used that word before up until right now, but it seemed appropriate. And now it just might stick.
It seems like a dance word.
It does. I get really jazzed up about it, you know?
I'm really jazzed up, man.
We went to the library on Thursday night and got jazzy, you know? Okay.
Jazzy.
I'm going on a tangent that doesn't need to be going doesn't need to be going on. Don't need to be going on this tangent. Okay. Point being that I love hearing stories of self-awareness and realization, and being able to look back and go, oh yeah, that's what that was. I recognize it. I saw it. I did something about it. And look at me now. I love that.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Congrats to you on that one. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for being receptive with that. Okay. So let's ask you, what is the one piece of advice that you would give your younger self if you could?
Same thing that we've touched on already. Since the topic got brought up just a few hours ago, I was like, the one thing. Okay. Of all the things
that you could. Yeah.
The one thing, because really I could, you know, give myself quite a long list of really
roll
good
the scroll out real
exactly
quick.
Like,
here we go.
Madame Brennan, I have a message for you. This may take 5 days. Please get comfortable. No. Yeah. So it was that thought process. And even now I'm kind of not second guessing myself, but going like, this should be a really good answer. And I'm going to take the pressure off. And just the one thing that came that I was like, yeah, that's sticking. So for me, the one piece of advice that I would tell little Alanita, and I'm thinking of myself at like 13, 14. I don't know. I don't know if we even touched on that before, but like just the visual that I have in my head of like, this is where it's not like 5-year-old Alana or 8-year-old Alana. It's like, this is more like, you know, 14-ish Alana.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Set the scene.
Yeah.
I like this. Yeah. I did not do that.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have suggested
why are you sorry?
it. Just came to my head.
You're not responsible for my actions or decisions.
But I am. No, just kidding.
Okay, sorry. No, this is your time.
No, it's
all
fine.
So
I love it. This is our time.
So this
is our time.
We set the scene.
Yes. Okay. My advice would be, the only person your love can save is you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's just like sent like waves through my body.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. You guys, it's not like she's in marketing or something. Oh, that just like, whoo. Yeah, that's a good one. Wow. Very
Thanks.
good.
Thanks. And for those of you that are listening that know me well, because I'm assuming most of you that are listening.
Yeah. To all our friends and family who signed up for this.
Know me well. But I wanted love so bad. And it's kind of the classic story. Like you said, it's a cliche lesson. It's one that we all seem to learn in a really big way or a small way, or depending upon, how healthy our image of love is.
Yeah.
But I wanted love so badly from such a young age. And it wasn't even necessarily that I wanted like the male attention. Yes, I did have a bit of that too, because all young girls have that. But like, I wanted this like love thing, the partner. I want someone to want to be with me. I want to be with them. I want to have the romance. I want to have like the fairy tale. I want to believe that love can save everyone and anything. And I do believe that love is the thing that can save, but it needs to come from you. So I had a very long line of lessons of me trying to love everyone that I ended up partnering with so hard, and giving them all of me, and forgetting about myself, and just thinking that if I love these people enough, not only will they love me back the way that I want them to, but I can change them. I can save them. I can make them believe in things. I can, I felt like I could change the world by trying to change them, instead of ever realizing that all of the love that I was so deeply wanting to give and get in return was the love that my soul was just desperately asking for me to give myself, yes. And I just, I had all of it, and I did. I love hard, and
you do.
I really do love really hard, and in the past have foolishly loved, as so many of us do, but just like stupid love, and I truly believed that I could change people and save people, and and if me giving all of that up, somehow it would come back to me, even though I was never giving it to myself, which again is a really simple lesson, and is one that's been said a gazillion times. But when
that's your story,
but that's truth. My story, and that's my truth. And I think, again, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned making those mistakes, or not necessarily mistakes, but just having those experiences. But there is a part of me, and I wouldn't call it regret, where I look back and go, maybe it didn't need to be that hard, and maybe, I don't feel like that's regret. I really don't. But there is a part of me, I think that's why I want to tell my younger self now, is I think that's why this exercise, it kind of came up, is I want to tell you now, because you were never told it before. Or maybe my mom would say, yes, someone told you, but you wouldn't have listened anyway, and you didn't hear, or whatever. I'm sure there's some kind of response like that, but I don't ever.
But this is you to you,
right?
Not anybody else.
Right. And I don't remember it ever being said to me in a way that maybe made an impact, or like I said, maybe I was just maybe just so lost in my own fairy tale world that it is what but I feel like it's necessary now for just whatever purpose this is, or for whatever this brought up in me, and going, I feel like we need to do this, is to tell myself that the only person your love can save is you.
Yeah.
And
that's really special.
That's forever, like,
yeah. It sounds so simple, but it's something that's really, really super profound.
Yeah.
And thank you for wording it like that, because that's really special.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so
for you, do you feel like, I think I know the answer, but do you think it was a journey in figuring this out, or did something click one day and you went, holy shit, this is it?
I think the universe was really trying to get me to have the click.
Yeah.
And I didn't for a really long time.
And you were like, squirrel.
Exactly. Oh, look at the kitty.
What pretty butterfly.
Seriously, dolphin. No. Okay. So there was a lot of like, I had so many chances for the click to happen.
Yeah.
I think the really big click, I think it started. It was like, it's starting, like, here's the very beginning of it. And I would like see it, but there was I think for me, there was a big click.
Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely a journey, and it was me always growing and always wanting to be a good person and come from love and, all those things. I don't know that I was ever like just completely clueless, I was very clueless, maybe not completely clueless. And it was being ripped apart, or not apart, but just being completely ripped open in the most beautiful way. And it was the experience that I ultimately ended up being with my daughter's father. But there were so many things that led up to that point. So all of the relationships had a hand in that really beautiful awakening and click, or whatever, click or moment, or whatever it is. But I feel like I did have a very big aha moment in my experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. I had to be, I didn't get the hints, even though they were really obvious hints. I didn't get them for a while. And so the universe was like, all right, well, now we are just going to drop you on your head. And here you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Survive somehow.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah, you did.
Look at you.
Look at you. We love this for you. We love this.
We love this for you. And on that, if you don't mind me doing a little bit of a segue on that.
Yeah.
We are going to also share this question with some select people and love whatever their answers are for them as well.
And for sure.
Yeah. And I think we're going to add it on to what we've spoken about here right now, but wanting to hear more from everyone else, and kind of making this more of a family or community project, if you will. And I think it would be really interesting to hear what everyone else has to say.
Yeah.
And how this turns out. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. When you called me today and you were like, I have an idea. And we got on the phone, I was like, I love this idea. I think this is great. It's such a like simple, but really interesting and profound subject and question to ask yourself. And it's going to be really interesting to hear what other people have to say. And I'm really looking forward to that part of it too.
Yeah. And for the 2, 5, 10, or if we have more than 10 listeners.
Oh my God.
For those of you who are listening, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? And if you want to share it with us in any type of comment on any platform that you may be hearing or watching this, please do. I love to hear people's stories and why, and or what you guys come up with, or what rings true to you. And I know you do too. So I'm speaking for both of us there.
Yeah. Yeah. Activity time. Hey, fun stuff. I also really love to actively, anytime, because we all reminisce and we all have those moments where we sit in like a sad space of when we were, who we were. And, I mean, I don't sit in it for too long, but I definitely have those moments where it brings me back. I think it's very important to go, hey, I love you. I love you and you're going to be okay. And if anything else, like that is the message to the younger self, is like, I love you. And if you weren't told, I love you. And yeah, like envisioning her. I love you. Yeah.
Yeah. Be the person that you needed now.
Yeah.
Like you said, like we can still talk to that person and we can still address the things that needed, what you feel like needed to be said in order for you to heal now. You can still say those things and you can still address yourself.
Absolutely.
At that time.
Yes.
And it's not something that I do all the time. Like I'm aware of it and I have done it before, but I think it's very beneficial. And I think it's a good practice for those who are very aware of maybe a childhood wound or a scenario or trauma, or even if it's nothing really heavy, of like, hey, I still feel really bad about this one thing that I did when I was a kid and it was like not okay. Like, as you know what I mean? Whatever it is,
I forgive you.
It is, like, I forgive you. Like, let that go. Like if you need that, then I'm giving it to you.
Totally.
I liberate you.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, 20-year-old you, 22-year-old you, 26-year-old you, 32-year-old. Yeah.
50-year-old you. I mean, you can talk to your future self too.
It doesn't have to be, you could. Yeah.
I know. That's one of my favorite quotes that I read just a few weeks ago. It's like, before you can be old and wise, you need to be young and dumb. I love that. That's fun,
Yeah.
Not a lot of old wise people who didn't have a lot of crazy stories or stupid lessons. Worse,
Totally. I know.
Necessary.
I love my stories.
Me too. I really do. It's own it. Be proud of it. We all fuck up. We all make silly choices. We all fall down in really big ways. And I think it's nothing to be ashamed of. I think, like you said, whatever it is, own your story. And if you're still in a place where you're not proud of your story, then there's an opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank everyone for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank me for being here. Thank my younger self.
I want to thank me.
Last but not least, I want to thank me.
Yeah.
I do take days off and they're worth it. So I can't quote that part. Because he goes, for taking no days off. And I'm like, I don't want to say that.
I don't like that part of the speech. Me neither. That's so funny. Every time I hear that part of the speech, I'm like, oh, I need days off. I need the time. I need that time to reset and regroup. But that was great for him. We love that for him.
We love that for him. And you know what? I'm going to say something. I don't believe him. I think Snoop took some days off.
Oh, Snoop, did you hear that? Because I know he's listening to our podcast.
Come at me, Snoop. I think you did take some days off. I think you know how to relax quite well with the Corona in your hand and a joint in your mouth, sir.
Blunt.
Yeah, blunt.
Just saying.
Thank you. Correction.
Yeah. Correction. All right, guys. Enjoy these stories to come or following. And have a good one.
If I was to have a piece of advice for my younger self, I recently, in the process of deciding which school to send my kindergartner to, so in the last few months, have realized I have some stuff about education and the education system and that I was in. Always new issues coming up in our life to deal with. It's so fun. Anyway, so I would tell myself that it's okay to ask for help. Not only is it okay, but ask for help. Because of the family dynamic and the family structure, I never felt like I could ask for help. And the few times I did, I didn't get the help that I needed. So I just was kind of taught I was more the helper and not the helpee at home, in the home structure and home dynamics. And it was just particularly in sixth grade, I remember getting really lost in school, and particularly in math. In my mind, I was like, I don't like my math teacher. I don't like math. I'm not good at this. Come to find out down the road in college, I have ADD, which makes it really hard for me to comprehend algebra and things of that nature, especially when you have a loud class, which we were in a public school, rowdy class. Learning wasn't cool. Being smart wasn't cool. And I was already kind of bullied and stood out for being one of the few light-skinned girls in our class, grade, school. So I wasn't trying to draw more attention to myself. And that's when I just stopped liking school and stopped caring about school and stopped. In retrospect, I would tell myself, raise your hand and ask for help. What those classmates think about you in 30 years, it doesn't matter, because you are going to know cool things. You're going to know how to do math, algebra. You're going to understand world history. You're going to understand the rise and fall of the Egyptian empires, and ask for help. It's okay. And if you don't want to do it in front of people, stay after class. Ask for a meeting. I don't know. I wish that I felt safe asking for help. And that's what I would tell myself.
Hey, Alana and Tamara, this is Sam. I came across a quote recently that actually made me think about a lot of, a piece of advice that I wish I had gotten a long time ago. And of all people, it came from DMX. But it was trust in yourself, trust in people to be themselves, but trust in yourself that you can see them well. Which, in other words, as he then said, trust the snake to bite you, trust the liar to lie to you, trust the thief to steal from you. But it takes too much energy for you not to believe that they are who they are, for you to convince yourself that that's not who they are. And I've thought before, when someone shows you their colors, believe them, that kind of thing. But the advice really helps to think about people that you come across and understanding how you want to live your life, whether with that person or without that person in your life. But that person's not going to change. They are who they are. The only person who can change is you, with how you want to deal with them. And basically, you got the power, but trust other people to be themselves, and trust yourself in identifying what that is for yourself.
Podcast Primas. Aye! Okay. I have been asked what one piece of advice would I give to my younger self. And the thing that immediately pops up for me is, if I could go back in time, I would just look at my younger self and tell her to just love herself more. So many things that I struggled with as a young adolescent, and honestly, just like even as a young child, it was all stemmed from a place of like a lack of love and compassion for myself, my anxiety, my depression, relationships that I engaged in, body image, all that stuff, I feel like really could have been solved with more love for myself. So that's the message that I would go back and give to me. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I gave it actually a lot of thought, and as I tried to boil it down, I kept coming back to the same piece of advice that I think I'm even still learning to do even now as an adult. But I think the piece of advice that I would give to my younger self, it wouldn't change anything necessarily. It's not out of regret, but it's to listen to your gut or listen to your intuition. And what I mean by that is to be aware of how it feels in your body and how it feels when you are around certain people or in certain situations. I think there's power in being able to trust yourself and not necessarily need to put words to it. So I guess the subtext of that advice is that your body knows even if you can't intellectualize it yet. I have a tendency to ignore how I'm feeling until I can put words to what the emotion is or until I can put words to why I'm feeling that way. And more often than not, that resulted in me either feeling hurt or getting into a scenario where I was trusting myself too late instead of just trusting the way that my body felt. And so my piece of advice would be to trust your intuition, trust your body, trust how you're feeling and where it's feeling, or where you're feeling it. Because ultimately, it doesn't matter if you have the words to it or not yet. It doesn't matter if you can articulate it perfectly. What matters is that there is something happening that is either bringing you joy or bringing you sadness or bringing you fear. And all of those are very real felt emotions and very real felt experiences that sometimes I tried to intellectualize away. So I think that is the piece of advice that I just keep circling back to. And honestly, it's a lesson that I have had to learn over and over and over again. And for some reason, I'm not getting it, but I'm working on it.
If I could go back and give my younger self some advice, I would tell young self to push to 100% on what you're doing, no matter what it is. I think that there are a lot of activities, whether it be sport, extracurricular, art related, that I get to 90% because it just, to me, it felt like it wasn't cool to go all out on anything, you know? That also left a little room for, for an excuse of like, well, I probably could have done better, but I didn't try as much as I could have. So, I went 90%. But looking back, why? No reason to do that. So I'd have said, hey, young me, go 100. Push to 110 because when you find your boundary, right? When you push to 100%, then that's when you learn that you might have an extra gear. There might be 105% in there that you didn't know, but you don't know that until you truly push yourself to the limit. So I would say, young self, go find those limits.
If I could give the younger me a piece of advice without changing or regretting or having that be a layer to it, I would tell my younger self to slow down and be more selective. Primarily more selective. Be selective with my time, be selective of who I spend time with, who I give my energy with, and really think things through to make better choices. All those little annoying, unnecessary events or time spent waiting or involved, stuck at a place with people that were really just unnecessary events. Because life is short. And that, for me, then goes into self-worth. Because I think my younger self was a people pleaser and cared a little too much about what people thought. So had I been a little more selective, I think it would have not changed my course, because everything was a learning lesson, and I'm really thankful, and there's a reason behind the rhyme of why I am how I am and the things that I went through. Could have had a little less trial and error that was truly unnecessary. Basically, having my energy be its best at all times and places.
The question is, what advice would I give to my younger self? It's a lot. but to narrow it down, I would say to not be scared to take chances. Because I was so stuck in everything that I wanted to do when I was younger, being an athlete. And when it didn't pan out, I just chose the easiest route. But once I decided to go back to school, which was scary for me, obviously I did it, and I'm doing it now. And now I'm jumping into something totally new, and I have no nerves about it. I'm more anxious to get it going and provide for my family, knowing what this new company can provide for me financially and give the life that to my family that I've always dreamed of, and just keep pushing and chugging along.
Hey, Alana, Tamara. First time caller, long time listener. This is Brittany. Really excited to be on the show. Big fan over here. And love this question. It's sparked a lot of thought, reflection, and conversation. So thank you for prompting it. And I have to say, when I think about it, I'm super happy with both the destination where I've ended up right now today, where my life has led me, as well as the journey. It hasn't always been an easy one. It's certainly been difficult at times, but I'm somebody who learns by doing. So I don't even know that I would have taken a lot of advice along the way. However, there's one piece, sitting here sort of late 30s, looking ahead, what I'm planning for and my time horizon has changed. I'm now looking out and planning in a longer term sense than how I lived my life the past 3+ decades. And so I feel a lot of the pressure of finance. All of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, I want to buy a house. I want to save for retirement. I want to save for my child's education. And there's not enough to go around, even though I have a good job. And so if I could go back, I would encourage my younger self, even if it's $5 a month, put a little aside, buy Apple stock, do something to make your money work for you in a longer term sense earlier on, so that when you get to this point, there's less pressure to achieve some of your financial goals. And that's what I think I would say.
Like, subscribe, follow, sing, dance, scream, jump, whatever. I love that.